Draw of day 4. Draw 16 here, and it's a women's championship pool game between PEI, led by skip Kim Dolan, and Saskatchewan, led by their skip Sherry Anderson. And we are just underway here. They've taken care of the festivities that they do before each and every draw, the introductions of the teams, and the applause that they get from one another. Again, just another one of the signs of sportsmanship that take place here at a curling event such as this. Saskatchewan throwing yellow stones, and PEI with the hammer throwing the red. This is Julie Scales. She starts things off for PEI. Take a look at the standings on the women's side as we have moved now into the championship pool. You can visit www.curling.ca for a full breakdown of this 2016 Everest Senior Curling Championship. As we watch the first few stones here, Anita Silvernagel from Saskatchewan with her throw. So on the women's side, the top 8 seeds that moved into the championship pool, currently Newfoundland and Labrador, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, all sitting at 6 and 1. Colleen Jones and her Nova Scotia rink, as well as Ontario at 6 and 2. New Brunswick 5 and 3. Quebec 4 and 4. And then this PEI side, led by Kim Dolan, at 2 and 5. And just looking at the simple math of it, PEI would be pretty much eliminated from the possibility of moving on to the top 4, but that doesn't mean they don't want to come out here and spoil the party for Sherry Anderson and Saskatchewan. I think I'm doing pretty good too on the effort to say Saskatchewan, not Juan. I had a couple of Saskatchewan folks, including Michelle Lang, telling me that, hey, she's from Saskatchewan, that it's Win, not Juan. So I've been working on that, and hopefully you folks that are in or from Saskatchewan are thinking that I'm doing okay on that front. Here's a look at Brenda Gertzen. And right away, you kind of get the sense that these teams are going to try to keep this end fairly clean. Sometimes it's a mixed bag is what you get with the first end. Sometimes teams will come out and just start putting rocks in play and it's game on. And other times, depending on various circumstances, you'll see teams kind of just keep it open, keep it clean, and use that first end just to kind of get a feel for how the ice is playing. Nice to have you here on our Day 4 coverage of the 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. I'm Scott Squires, glad to have you joining me here for our feature game on Sheet B. And over on Sheet B, we've got Jim Nix bringing you a very good matchup on the men's championship pool side. Newfoundland and Labrador taking on Alberta. So a couple of great matches going here on the 4th day of this competition. Just past 7:30 local time, Digby time, which is Atlantic time. So Gertzen coming down now, looking to put a guard in play. Anderson, the skip, comes over to help out with the sweeping to bring that a little deeper, so not a guard, it actually goes into the rings. This is Sandra Matheson, all members of the Charlottetown team hailing from the capital city of beautiful Prince Edward Island, our smallest province geographically, but certainly one of the most beautiful, and all members from Charlottetown, birthplace of Confederation. And Matheson peels away that Saskatchewan yellow, and the shooter will roll off to the side. There is Patty Hersicorn. Vice for this Saskatchewan team. Patty, hailing from Porcupine Plain, Saskatchewan. And she'll come down, and I think you heard Sherry Anderson say, "My fault, Patty." I guess Sherry just letting her know that in terms of the ice that she took and the angle, that's why she got that roll over and nudged her own stone and then had the shooter roll out. And I was talking to the guys from British Columbia, the men's team, who played on this sheet earlier against Saskatchewan. And they were saying that there was quite a few little picks on the ice, and we just saw in behind some things being picked up from the ice in behind. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if that's something that may come into play here a little later on in this draw. But certainly the guys from BC, they weren't saying it in a negative fashion. They were just pointing out, as a matter of fact, saying, "Hey, did you happen to notice a couple of times there where we had Rock's pick out on that sheet?" And it was this particular sheet, sheet D. So again, we'll have an eye on that to see if anything comes from that particular situation. Here is Patty Hersicorn with her second. Patty, a dental assistant. She's been curling since she was 11. So, Kim Dolan, the skip for PEI. Calling for the shot here. No guards out in front, just those two rocks that you see in the rings. PEI with the hammer here in this first end. Susan McInnes, the vice for Prince Edward Island. Had a chance to chat with Susan the other night. She comes over, taps on that yellow, and angles it out. Nice shot there. And just what Kim Dolan, the skip, asked for. Hersicorn now, the vice, will call things in the rings with Sherry Anderson, the skip of Saskatchewan, going down to throw. And it was nice earlier between the draws here. I had a chance to go into the Everest patch and chat with some of the teams, and was talking to the Lang clan. And Christy Gamble was there, of course. Christy, the daughter of Mark and Susan Lang. And Christy, a pretty darn good curler herself. And she was there with her daughter, Bryn. Bryn, just about a year old. Last time I saw Christy, she was just about a week or so away from her delivery date for little Bryn, who is now bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just a little cutie. Mom and Dad certainly proud of their little bundle, and it was great to see Bryn sitting on Granddad's lap. Had her dad's phone there from distraction. I was trying to get Bryn's attention, and she wouldn't look up from the phone. I joked, I said, "Hey, just like my daughter." Except my daughter's 10. So we play on here in this first end. As you can see, very clean house. Just that one Saskatchewan yellow. Charlottetown PEI represented here very well by the Kim Dolan foursome. I would expect, we'll see here now, if Dolan wants to just play this clean and try and blank this end and carry over the hammer into the second. Not a whole lot going on here in terms of setup for points. Scales and Matheson on the sweep, and this could be a nose hit, and it is. So she hits it on the nose, takes it out the back, and the shooter will stick right there and count one. So Sherry Anderson, her Saskatchewan ranks, certainly in the thick of things here on the women's side of the championship pool, coming into action here this evening. 6-1, leading the way atop the women's standings, right up there with the the Alberta rink, and Newfoundland and Labrador, again, all at 6-1 and looking very good to get into that top 4 that will play the semifinals on Saturday morning. Again, just a reminder here that the records for all of these teams carried over from the round robin into the championship pool. And then the top 4 teams after this championship pool, which will wrap up tomorrow, will play a 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 format. And then the winners of those semifinals will go head-to-head for the gold medal on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock Atlantic time, scheduled there. Also, a lot of fun coming your way Saturday afternoon at noon. The Everest Furby Pro-Am taking place and will be broadcast live on Bellaline TV1 online. Very excited about that. We'll expand on that a little more later in the broadcast. But that is going to be fun, and I've been part of some of the discussions as to what's going to take place for that live broadcast. It is a pretty unique viewing experience as we see Dolan, as expected, given the chance, she would blank, and she does indeed blank end number 1. So nothing on the board through 1. Hammer carries over into end 2 for this PEI squad. Take a moment here to thank the sponsors of this 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. The platinum sponsors, Town of Digby, Municipality of the District of Digby, Province of Nova Scotia, Department of Health and Wellness, Bell Canada, and ACOA, the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, as well silver sponsors, Simcoe Refrigeration, Tim Hortons, Digby, Conway, and Batagan, Jet Ice, Atlantic Superstore Digby, and Broker Link Insurance. A big thank you to all of those sponsors coming from the Digby Area Recreation Commission, excuse me. So Anita Silvernagel will watch this one, sail into the rings and sit just there at the top of the 8. And Julie Scales will settle in now. And if you just look to the back left there you see Bob Ursel having a bite to eat, the skip of the British Columbia men's team. 2 big wins for them today. And he is adorning the 2-piece British Columbia flag suit. I've been wondering aloud whether it's a onesie, a jacket. Well, I talked to some of the BC fans, and it is actually a fabulously designed 2-piece BC flag suit. And being worn here this evening by the skip of the British Columbia men's team, looking sharp. There he is right there. Oh, that is great. Wow, that is fan support at its finest, you know. And I guess he's feeling extra good about the fact he won twice today. Why not throw on a BC flag 2-piece suit? That, you know what, that could start a trend. We could start seeing provincial 2-piece flag suits all over. Some industrious entrepreneur should really get on that and start putting together 2-piece flag suits. Everybody could walk around. At the very least, you'd know what province you're from and who you're supporting. Guess I better get on getting my Newfoundland and Labrador 2-piece flag suit with a Nova Scotia 2-piece flag suit in reserve, as I'm kind of divided amongst 2 provinces. Was born in Newfoundland and Labrador, lived there for a few years before my parents moved over to Nova Scotia. Most of my life in Nova Scotia, so pretty neat though. Good to see Skip Ursel wearing that and supporting the BC ladies. So this end, still a little bit open, although there is one red PEI guard in place, and then that one Saskatchewan yellow. Brenda Gertzen now will throw. Want to remind you as well, you can certainly reach out to us on social media via Twitter. We've been getting some great tweets and retweets. We appreciate that. You can reach out, get a hold of us on Twitter. Attach my Twitter name, JOHSCO. Also use the hashtag EverestFurby and hashtag TV1. Love to hear from you. So Gertzen sails this one down And that'll sit as a very deep guard just off to the center line. Well, hard not to focus your eye on those bright BC flag two-piece suits. They kind of really stick out. And there they are. Why not take a picture? Say cheese, guys. That's the entire BC team. Isn't that very cool to see right there? That's pretty sharp. No question, it's competitive. They want to win, but at the end of the day, these curling events, so much camaraderie, fellowship, and friendship. And these curlers support one another, and they have a lot of fun. And certainly being pointed out there by Team British Columbia, that is outstanding. That is fun. That, you know what? There you go. That encapsulates what a curling event is all about right there. Win a couple of games, have some fun, put on a two-piece flag suit, get your picture taken. Why wouldn't you want to be a curler and come to the 2016 Everest Canadian Seniors Curling Championship? And we're glad to be able to bring it to you on Bell Aligned TV1. Bringing it to you so you can experience it as well right along with us. And you know, we talk about the skill of these curlers and the skill of the players on the ice, but I'm just going to take a moment here to, I guess, be a little indulgent, but not self-indulgent, just to comment on the great job that the production crew has done here during this week. Chuck Calder and Scott McRae, the two director switchers, and all of the guys helping out on camera and everything else, just doing such a fantastic job. And I'll tell you what, being on this side of things and being an announcer, when you talk about something or you reference something and your director hears about it and then gets you a shot of it and then shows it, it makes me look really good and it makes me look like kind of what I know what I'm doing. But without the help of that kind of assistance behind the scenes from a technical crew and a pretty snappy, snazzy director, it doesn't look near as good. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to the 45 North crew, and in particular Chuck Calder, and on this particular game Scott McRae, who's been doing all the directing on Sheet D. Sometimes we don't give enough credit to all the folks behind the scenes, and I cannot take my eye off of the BC flag suits. I cannot tell a lie. That they may be the fashion statement star of this 2016 Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championship. Patty Hersicorn now, nice look there as she follows this rock down, and it's always fun to watch just how intent these curlers are. They will stay right on their rock, zero focused in on it until it comes to an absolute rest. And you can tell they're just thinking about it and analyzing it the entire way down. So Hersicorn, nice weight on that as she tucks it in behind. So Susan McInnes now will be asked to deliver here for Prince Edward Island. We are in the second end. PEI has the hammer on the back of the blank in end number 1. PEI looking to play somewhat of a role of spoiler here, trying to hang a second loss on this Saskatchewan team. So there's the situation, that one guard off to the side. That's certainly not playing into things, at least not at this point. And Sherry Anderson maybe just looking for a little help, that guard up high there. And then the other one just to the left. So remember, Saskatchewan playing yellow here. And Patty Hersicorn will get ready to deliver her second rock here in end number 2. Hersicorn delivers. And Silvernagel and Gertsen brushing now. Now you hear Anderson. Look at her wiggling that broom. She wants some more brushing action on that. She wants some directional sweeping. And she'll come out and help it herself. And it ends up bumping up against that red PEI rock. So it's Sherry Anderson jumping out there and helping with the sweeping. good communication between McInnes and Dolan, saying that she liked the shot selection, that she just wanted a little more ice. And Kim Dolan obliges. Here's McInnes now. McInnes, an accountant, back home in Prince Edward Island. Who doesn't need a good accountant from time to time? Just a little tap on that Saskatchewan yellow, pushing it across the face of the 12-foot. And then the shooter will roll over. So now we're getting a little bit of traffic here up in the front. A lot of stones in play. They look to be fairly spread out. No real bunches. But again, lots of rocks in play. Kind of spread out all over it. You see, very animated there, Sherry Anderson saying she likes that one, talking about that Saskatchewan yellow there at the top. Well, Team British Columbia has broken out the vuvuzelas. All of a sudden, I feel like I'm at the World Cup a couple of years ago. It certainly is a fun environment here, and what a great job that Digby and area have done. The Digby Area Recreation Commission, of course, Everest, the title sponsor, and the curlers themselves, the volunteers. Just a fantastic job of putting this together. An awful lot of moving parts go into not only the organization of an event like this, but the execution of it as well. I know still a couple of days to go, but certainly through the first 4 days, it's been very well run, and it's been an absolute delight to be here and be a part of it. Anderson now, the skip of the Saskatchewan team. She is really yelling at her front end to get on this, and in a big way. She needs this to come over. She needs to get it around that guard. She does now. How tight can she get it up to her other rock? It just taps off it and rolls over. And Anderson right away was calling for the brushing on that almost as soon as it left her hand. She was on the front end of Silvernagel and Gertsen to really work that rock down the ice. And again, sweeping, such a huge part, especially for a finesse shot like that. So now, PEI with the hammer here, staring in at a couple of Saskatchewan stones that are counting at the moment. Kim Dolan, the skip. Down to throw skip stones here. Susan McInnes, the vice, will now handle brush placement in the rings. And in behind with an ever watchful eye, Patty Hersicorn, Sherry Anderson from Saskatchewan. So Dolan going to come right down in to this Saskatchewan yellow party that's happening in the middle part of the rings. On that guard. Takes it out, and I can't believe that that's what Dolan wanted to do there. I don't think she's overly pleased with that, and we'll see now what kind of conversation or reaction she has with McInnes on that one. And you see right away, discussing it with McInnes, they've got to figure out what happened on that one. Sherry Anderson trying to set things up here for a potential steal. Of course, Dolan with the last rock. So here is Sherry Anderson, the veteran of this Saskatchewan team, had a 4th place finish back in the 2010 Scotties. looking here for a national senior curling title and a trip to the Worlds next year. So Anderson brings that one down and creates a clump of yellow all above the tee line there. You see it just to the left of Dolan. So right now, it's Saskatchewan sitting 4. So Dolan, no choice other than to take a single point here. Otherwise, she's going to give up a steal. So how comfortable will Dolan be with this weight and with this shot? So she may be looking at coming down on that right side and jamming up against those 2 yellow rocks and try to split them out. But again, that's also, we'll see what she's thinking here. Again, she's facing 4 Saskatchewan yellow stones. She does have hammer, and she did blank 1 to take this hammer over into the second end. So let's see what Dolan has to offer here. It's been a smart end from Sherry Anderson, her Saskatchewan foursome. They've made some pretty strategic shots. Here's Dolan now, her final rock and the final rock of this second end, facing 4 yellow Saskatchewan stones in the house. So Dolan is coming down that far side, looking to bring it in and try to split those off. And that does not at all work out for Dolan as she came down there. And I wondered if she did that, what the percentage was of that shot working out, and it just doesn't come together for for Dolan on that final shot. So it's a steal of 2 for Saskatchewan. So they'll take the 2-0 lead on the strength of that steal, and we'll move to the third end with PEI trailing by a score of 2-0. Bell Alliant is proud to be the official broadcaster for the 2016 Everest Canadian Seniors Curling Championships. We are live from the Digby Arena and the Digby Curling Club, located in beautiful Digby, Nova Scotia. Bell Alliant, there's more to love with fiber op. And a quick turnaround here, and we move into end number 3. Saskatchewan playing a nice end there to set things up, and Dolan just not able to come up with that very high-risk shot there at the end. Good honor for going for it, but it didn't work out, and it's a steal of 2. So Dolan trailing here in this third end. And right away, Saskatchewan come right into the rings. May as well just keep that pressure right on PEI and Dolan. And for Saskatchewan, well, you know, they're feeling pretty good about where they are record-wise, up toward the top of the pool on the women's end of things, but I'm sure that they would like to secure a first spot and get the top seed if they can do it on Saturday. So Dolan asks for the guard, and she gets it. Sitting just off to the side there, about 4 feet to one side of that center line. See now if Anderson looks for the peel on this. Anita Silvernagel with the delivery. Silvernagel, born in the town of Bigger. So coming over now. Thought you might try and take that guard off. But Dolan, or excuse me, Saskatchewan, they come in to the ring. So looks like Anderson determined to get rocks in play and heap the pressure on Kim Dolan. This is similar to what she did in that last end, and she had so many rocks in play and she forced Dolan's hand, and Dolan not able to come up with the big shot. She gave up the steal of 2. Julie Scales with her second here. Scales on that top stone. Can she get the little run back double? Well, she does double both, but she doesn't remove them. They still stay around the rings, and Saskatchewan still shot rock. Scales won the PEI Junior Curling Championship in '82. Also competing in the PEI Scotties, winning it in '92, '98, and 2002, as well runner-up at the Canadian Dominion, which is now the Travelers Curling Club Championship. Actually had an opportunity to meet Julie last year at the Travelers Curling Club Championship that was held in Halifax at the Mayflower Curling Club. And what a fun event that was. I actually was adopted by the Saskatchewan fans at that event, so I kind of have this interesting connection to Saskatchewan. Never been there, never traveled there, but I seem to resonate with the fans of Saskatchewan. And I have had some folks from Saskatchewan telling me that Saskatchewan folks are a lot like Newfoundland and Labradorians. So that would make sense, considering that is where I am from. Sandra Matheson now for PEI. Throwing some little heavier weight here. No problem past that guard. Just going to look to peel this one off, and the shooter will roll out. So she takes care of one Saskatchewan yellow, and then the other one to your right of your screen there, just hanging around the back of that 12-foot, and then you still have that deep guard belonging to PEI sitting right there. So Anderson looks like she's going to call for that guard to be taken away. Here is Brenda Gertzen. Gertzen, born in Saskatoon, curls at the Nutana Curling Club. Played in the '94 Canadian Mixed Championships on behalf of Saskatchewan. And just as Sherry Anderson asked for, so does Brenda Gertzen deliver. Peels off that guard, cleans up the front part of the ice, and we've got a pretty open house here. So this is Sandra Matheson with her second stone here in this third end. See what kind of placement she gets on it. The front end of Scales and McInnes doing the brushing. So that one will go through, and Anderson now. We'll call for this shot from Patty Hersicorn. Fairly brisk pace to this game so far, as we're already into the third end. Starts to move over now. Fairway to curl, comes over to the center line. Dolan comes out for a look. And Dolan will see if she can drag this deep as possible. And she takes it maybe a few inches further than it would have gone, but it does hang around. And Dolan now will want to deal with those rocks at the back. So to the vice for PEI, Susan McInnes. Playing the out turn here. Again, barely a blink as she watches this shot. Scales and Matheson now working the front end. Trying a little directional sweeping now, trying to pull it over a little bit, screen left. And it'll sit right there behind the tee line, full 8-foot. So Saskatchewan now, their turn here to throw Vice Stone, getting down to the last couple of rocks. They're already getting close to skip stones. You hear Anderson say hard, wanting to get rid of this PEI rock. Right on it, drives it back onto the yellow of Saskatchewan, so they took out one of their own and moved that PEI rock just to the back. So good positioning there for that Saskatchewan yellow, and a little protection in behind should they try to actually run it back. Although there would be enough spacing if you wanted to peel it out, that would happen. Hammer here belonging to PEI once again. Third end in a row they've had the hammer. They blanked one, gave up a steal of 2 in 2. And again, working with the hammer here in 3, trying to get some points on the board. McInnes again. Playing that out turn, looking to get that hit, angle it back, and hit it a little thicker than she wanted. Ends up driving that Saskatchewan yellow back onto her own PEI red and took it out the back. So rocks on either side of the rings. 2 yellow Saskatchewan stones splitting the house, and then that one PEI red that you see on the right of your screen sitting in the full 8-foot. Sherry Anderson, the skip of this Saskatchewan team. Only 1 loss so far in the tournament. The Everest Canadian Senior Curling Championships have been very kind to Saskatchewan women's team so far. Take out weight, drive it straight back, nose hit, job done. So 3 Saskatchewan yellows sitting in there. And Dolan will want to come in now and get some kind of pressure on Anderson, because as Anderson did in the second end, making it difficult for Dolan. And again, Dolan, best case scenario, she scores 2. So I'm sorry, I've been saying I thought for sure that was a steal of 2. There's only 1 up on the board. Boy, oh boy, I'd love to go back and have a look at that. I mean, I'm sure the teams know, but I've been saying a steal of 2, and I thought clearly it looked like 2 Saskatchewan yellow. We're closer, but the scoreboard, I guess, in this case, is saying just 1, so that's what we'll go with for now. So a little better situation, I guess, for PEI, as it just is a steal of 1. Not a brush laid to this at all, and Anderson comes over now. And this is going to tick off of that Saskatchewan yellow, and I'm not even going to guess as to which of those 2 rocks would be closer to the button. Well, if I had to guess, I would say the yellow of Saskatchewan, but I'm not gonna. My percentage on that is about 12 in terms of guessing right. So there's the overhead look that we have here. And certainly that Saskatchewan stone to the extreme left, sitting on the T line, would be shot. Then the question is, what is second? From this angle, I would say it's the yellow of Saskatchewan, but I will not definitively say that because I really just can't tell for sure. Sherry Anderson with her final rock here. of this third end. So a little discussion here between McInnes and Dolan. Again, as we saw in the previous end, staring far too many yellow in the face. In behind, conversation again between Hersecorn and Anderson, and that's something you see fairly commonly, is when they're not throwing, you'll see the skip and the vice of the team that's not throwing standing in behind, talking about strategy, the previous shot, the next shot, and maybe even the shot after that. Third end action, 1-0 for Saskatchewan on the strength of the steal of one. Dolan, quite a bit of rotation on this rock as she let it go. Really looking to make this move. Typically just inside that hog line is where you'll start to see the big movement, although there hasn't been as much swing in this ice today. Now it starts to curl over just a little bit. Dolan trying to get that in as close to the center line as possible, and again, it'll sit right there, and I am not going to attempt to guess. It appeared that they moved the yellow first, but sometimes they move the scoring rock, sometimes they move the rock that was further away. So I will not mess up our graphics operator, and I will not mess you up. I will wait until they physically put a number on the board. So, and the other thing I guess it'll tell us is when we see whoever settles into the hack, that's who we know got the single point. Very close though, and Dolan is, well, Dolan got what she wanted. She got the point. No, sorry, Saskatchewan got the point because PEI will be throwing hammer. So another steal for Team Saskatchewan. So that's why I didn't even want to guess. I wanted to wait to see who settled into the hack and who had the hammer, because whoever settled into the hack first got the points. So there's a look at it. Another steal of one. And now a 2-0 lead. And for the fourth end in a row, Kim Dolan and Team Prince Edward Island will have the hammer. So just some, very basic, not over aggressive, fairly conservative, but consistent play from Sherry Anderson and her PEI rink. Saskatchewan rink. And for PEI, it's not that they've, been outplayed here too much. It's just a couple of shots that haven't gone their way, and certainly that last shot from Dolan, she looked to come in, and quite honestly, we've talked about it, a game of inches, but it truly is. I mean, it was the slightest of margins that Saskatchewan Yellowstone was closer to the button than the PEI red, and the slightest margin. So Kim Dolan was that close to tying this up, but instead, just not close enough, and the point goes to Saskatchewan and Anderson, and they now have a 2-0 lead. So PEI had the hammer to open up. They blanked one. Then they gave up a steal of 1 and 2, and Saskatchewan with another steal of a single point in 3. And now in the fourth end, it's 2-0 for Saskatchewan, and PEI with the hammer here. The fourth end break will be coming your way right after this end. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of chatting and regrouping for PEI, but again, it's just, they haven't been blown off the sheet here by Saskatchewan. It's just been the very smallest of margins that Saskatchewan's been able to get the upper hand and get those 2 steals. And on the flip side, credit to Sherry Anderson and her Saskatchewan ring for making the shots they've had to make and keeping the pressure on PEI. PEI's had the hammer, but haven't been able to take advantage. And this Anderson foursome from Saskatchewan right now doing what they need to do and showing why they're 6-1 coming into this game. Take a quick look at what we got coming your way tomorrow here on TV1. 3 draws tomorrow, and we get underway at 10 a.m. Atlantic time on Sheet B. It'll be Women's Championship Pool action, Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia. And over on Sheet D, it'll be women's seeding game between Northern Ontario and BC. The second draw, scheduled for 2 p.m. on Sheet B, will have Women's Championship Pool action, New Brunswick and PEI. On Sheet D, we'll have men's seeding pool, Quebec and the Northwest Territories. And then the final draw tomorrow, scheduled for 6 p.m. So make note of the different start times tomorrow. 6 p.m. on Sheet B, we'll have men's championship pool, Ontario versus Nova Scotia. And on D, women's championship pool, Alberta versus Nova Scotia. So some important games on Bell Aligned TV1 tomorrow. And again, note the special start times. Only 3 draws tomorrow. We're on the air. First draw scheduled for 10 a.m. Atlantic time. Second draw at 2 p.m. Atlantic time. And the final draw at 6 p.m. Atlantic time. And then tomorrow evening, we won't have it on the air, but tomorrow evening is when they will do the draft of players for the Everest Furby Pro-Am. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on, but just want to let you know that it'll be a lot of fun, and it's going to involve 4 very iconic Canadian curlers. Randy Furby, Jennifer Jones, Brad Jacobs, and Al Hackner, all taking part, and they'll be divided up into 2 teams, along with 4 other senior curlers from across Canada, club curlers, who were chosen through a contest selection process, and they will be put into a draft, and Randy Furby, Jennifer Jones will be team captains, and they will select from the remaining 6 players. So that should be very interesting and a lot of fun talking to Randy Furby and Mark Duffy from Everest. They were telling us about the event last year, and if this year is anything like what they did last year, I believe it was out in Edmonton, it should be an absolute blast. A real treat for the fans in attendance here at the Digby Arena, but for you watching on Bell Aligned TV1, you're going to have a lot of fun as well. You're going to get up close and personal with all of the iconic Canadian curlers, as well as the very lucky senior club curlers from across Canada. And you're going to see access to these curlers like you have never seen at a curling event. And again, that'll come your way live at noon Atlantic time on Saturday. The Everest Furby National Pro-Am. And PEI, Sandra Matheson runs that yellow Saskatchewan stone. A lot of stones in play here. You see it. Quite a bit of action right up toward that center line and then either side. So Sherry Anderson with the brush placement, giving lots of ice here to Patty Hersicorn. Patty with her first throw here from the vice position. She says the line's good. She would know. She just let it go. Coming down, utilizing all of that ice that her skip gave her. Now it should start to come over. Silvernagel jumps across that one rock, and then they'll look to Just freezes into that pile right there, and it comes to a halt just shy of tapping into those other two rocks. So that middle section now really clogging up with rocks. And again, you know, PEI has the hammer here, but everything that Sherry Anderson and Saskatchewan are doing, making it really difficult for Dolan to go on the offense. It seems that even though Dolan and PEI have had the hammer in now this fourth consecutive end, it seems that PEI are playing defense the entire way, just trying to stop Saskatchewan from stealing. And that's just due to the fact that Saskatchewan making some good shots and being very strategic, and Sherry Anderson has just been coming after it here. So McInnes puts that one into the pile, jostles a few rocks around, and we end up with 3 rocks across the top of the 12-foot, a couple of red rocks behind the tee line, sitting shot rock and second shot, and then a couple of rocks in deep on that 12-foot. And there's a overview and a look at what's going on. And I'll tell you, it's really something to see the way that the game of curling has changed and evolved and the way it's opened up offensively. So many ends now you see look like this. You know, there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rocks have been thrown. 9 of them are still in play. Hersikorn with her second. Silvernagel and Gertsen working it. Look at that. Hersikorn yelling the wiggle of the brush from Anderson. They want to get it through that hole. And it's going to tip off the guard and actually open things up in the middle. And Hersikorn really was on the front end of Silvernagel and Gertsen to brush that rock. Susan McInnes settling in. Eyes up. Focus ahead. Scales and Matheson really just brushing to keep this line clean. McInnes is going to look to come through that fairly wide port. Really just dying right there. Boy, the last 2 feet, that rock just absolutely just dug in and died. So it'll sit right there, another guard in place. That section of the ice on both sides of that center line fairly blocked up right now. PEI continuing to sit 2, but a whole lot can happen in the next few rocks as we get into skip stones. PEI blanked 1. Saskatchewan stole 1 and 2, stole another in 3, and we're in the 4th end here. Into skip stones, PEI with the hammer have yet to be able to take advantage of that and score any points. We'll see what happens here. Anderson. Watching this. Just brushing to keep it clean. No problem getting through that little port there. Now she comes over. Can she push her own back and get it into the button? And she does. And now she's got the protection of that red PEI rock in behind it. So a fine shot there again. Sherry Anderson and Saskatchewan just making the shots that they need. And you see Dolan there kind of rocking back and forth. And I'm sure she's thinking to herself, what do I have to do to get a break against Sherry Anderson and Saskatchewan? My gosh, look at that. It looks like something I would have finger painted in grade 3. Just a mess of rocks. And again, we've seen this end after end, not only in this game, but in almost all of the draws. So many of the ends now end up being like this with so many rocks in play. And it really does make it interesting because when you get them all in there and they're bunched up like that, you just never know. We've seen in other draws where a skip has tried to come in with their last rock or two and try to make something big happen, the high risk, high reward shot. And because of the way the rocks are bunched, if you get the angle just a little bit wrong, it completely changes how they react to one another. And you think you might be doing yourself good, and you end up actually clearing out your own and making it better for your opponent. But we've also seen instances, and I think of Bob Ursel earlier today, the BC men's skip against Alberta, where he had a similar situation coming into a pile of rocks, and it was just perfectly placed, perfect weight, perfect angle, and he ended up blasting all of the Alberta rocks out and left himself sitting 4. And he ended up stealing 3 in that end, and that was the tide turner. And that's the exciting thing about curling. This type of thing happens on a regular basis. So Kim Dolan into the fray once more. Through the hole, looking to get that little tap, push it back, and she just not a lot that she can do. I mean, it's so clogged up there. That's the best she could do with that situation. And again, a Saskatchewan yellow sitting almost on top of that Everest logo. And now, if you're Sherry Anderson, do you come down and try and push that other Saskatchewan yellow that they're talking about right there back into that pile a little bit and really create a jam? And again, because of the placement of the rocks, there's no opportunity here for Dolan to blank whatsoever. I mean, that's obvious. So again, for the third end in a row, Sherry Anderson has put Kim Dolan in a situation where she's got the hammer, but she's playing defense. And again, it's not that Dolan and PEI are playing poorly. It's just that because of the way Sherry Anderson is playing and her front end of Hersikorn, Gertzen, and Silvernagel, they're just constantly keeping Dolan, McInnes, Matheson, and Scale, the PEI team, on their heels. Sometimes they say the best defense is a good offense. Well, I think that would be the case here. So we'll see now what Anderson has planned for this shot. Does she want to come through that port and just freeze up against those other rocks and create a jam situation to make it near impossible for Dolan to do anything other than roll the dice with big weight? So it's going to have to curl quite a bit. Now it starts to come over. Looks like it's going to get through there. Yeah, there's a little bit of curl as it comes over. Now can they just freeze it up or even get a little tap? Just a little bump, and it'll sit right there. So if you're Sherry Anderson, you're happy with that. If you're Kim Dolan, standing right there next to Susan McInnes, what do you do? You've got that little port in front. If you work with that, you're coming into 2 Yellowstones there, and even if you run them back, you're going to cause a jam onto that one Saskatchewan rock that's sitting on the Everest logo, because it'll jam on that red PEI rock in behind. And you can't really come around. I mean, look at that. How you can't really come around the outside. I mean, you're not going to get 6 feet of swing if you come down the side and try to curl it in, unless you had a remote control car under the rock and you could make it do a 45-degree turn. Tough sit. Boy, I'll tell you what, I'm glad I'm not skipping. Because, I mean, you look down at that and what do you do? Well, we're going to find out what you do. Here's Kim Dolan, the skip of PEI. She's been on the defense the entire time. She's got pretty good weight here. She's just rolling the dice, going for broke, coming down that far side. Look at the rotation on that rock. My goodness.
Some days it feels a lot better than other days.
And she just blows it right down the side and almost conceding the points there to Anderson. So again, we'll have to wait and see just how many, because they don't waste any time. They clear those rocks out of there toot sweet. So again, definitely a multiple point steal for Saskatchewan here, and we'll wait and see how many points they put up on the board. So we'll give you an update on the score when we come back. We'll step aside. It's the 4th end break. Saskatchewan leading, and we'll tell you by how many when we come back. It's the 2016 Everest Canadian Seniors Curling Championships, live and exclusively on Bell Alive TV1.
Welcome to the UNESCO Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve, the second largest biosphere reserve in Canada. Nestled in the southwest part of Nova Scotia, the Biosphere Reserve encompasses nearly 1/4 of the province. That's 1.5 million hectares. The area is rich in natural and cultural diversity. Here you can immerse yourself in our deep-rooted cultures of the Mi'kmaq, the Acadian, Loyalists, and the Scottish. Referred to as Gespequick by the Mi'kmaq people, this is the place where the flowing waters of lakes and rivers meet the ocean. Our UNESCO Biosphere consists of Kejimkujik National Park and National Historic Site of Canada, the Tobeatic Wilderness Area, and surrounding picturesque communities within the 5 municipal counties that form our zone of cooperation. We are home to the highest diversity of plants, reptiles, and amphibians east of Ontario. The stories of our Mi'kmaq ancestors are conveyed here through petroglyphs. We have the largest collection of petroglyphs in eastern North America. With a coastline etched, nourished, and shaped by the sea, the biosphere is greeted by the Atlantic Ocean with sweeping, surfy sand beaches, and the powerful tidal surge of the Bay of Fundy, home to the world's highest tides, rises and falls some 50 feet twice daily, boasting a bounty of sea life and sea vegetables. For generations, we have called this land home. We have fished, farmed, harvested, and gathered, while appreciating our unique traditional way of life, where man and his biosphere interact sustainably. Come visit, sample, and experience. Embark on an ocean adventure in search of plankton and whales. Assist Mother Nature in caring for her species at risk. Retrace the footsteps of our Mi'kmaq people, or explore and savor the biosphere by paddle or on foot. You'll find yourself connecting to our unique cultural and physical landscapes, our home. As our guest, let us guide you through our UNESCO Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve, and you'll soon realize why UNESCO designated this part of Nova Scotia as one of the world's biosphere reserves. The UNESCO Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve has an adventure waiting. All it needs is you.
Back with you here in this fifth end. It's been a tough go here through the first 4 ends for Kim Dolan and her PEI side. It's, again, just to reiterate, it's not that they're playing poorly, it's just Sherry Anderson really had the game face on here at the beginning of this one and has kept the pressure on PEI throughout and has made it very difficult for Kim Dolan to get any kind of momentum going. Dolan and PEI have just really kind of been on the defensive for most of this game, and there you see steals of 1 in the second, third, and fourth end. And it's 3-0. Now, well, I'm not going to lie. I thought in that fourth end that when Dolan fired that rock down the side, I thought it just might have been a miss, but perhaps, because it looked like to me that Saskatchewan may have been sitting more and it might have been a much bigger steal, but I guess in fairness to Dolan, she may have just looked at that pile and thought, you know what, if I try to go in there and do anything at all, the high-risk shot, I may end up moving these rocks around and giving a bigger steal to Saskatchewan. So Dolan, I guess, taking the lesser of two evils and deciding to just waste a shot down the side, leave everything intact, and just take that hit of the steal of 1 and again take the hammer into the fifth end. So Sherry Anderson and Saskatchewan have yet to have the hammer, but they have yet to trail. It's 3-0 for Saskatchewan here in the fifth end. And once again, PEI and Dolan will have the hammer. And I guess, for Dolan, you can't blame her. You throw that one down the side. You don't disturb anything. You take the 1 point steal, and then you come back. And we have seen plenty of times where teams here in this tournament have put 3, 4, 5 points on the board in an end. So again, while right now it may look a little bleak for Prince Edward Island, all is not lost. All Dolan needs is a little bit of a break here, and she can get right back in this one. PEI, their throw from Scales, ticks off that Saskatchewan rock and will go off to the side. So just up at the top of your screen there, just barely showing, is a little sliver of a PEI guard that was put up. Anderson and Saskatchewan deciding to play straight into the rings and not mess around with the guard game. There's that little brush waggle that you see fairly consistently from Anderson. Right down onto the PEI red, angle it out, and the shooter rolls out as well, but I think Saskatchewan will be okay trading a red for a yellow there. Give you an update on our feature game over on Sheet B. Men's championship pool action between Manitoba and Newfoundland and Labrador. Currently 2-1 for Manitoba as they play in the fifth end, I believe. Yes, Jim Nix confirming that. So fifth end action, Manitoba leading 2-1 with the hammer over Newfoundland and Labrador. And again, that's our feature game on Sheet B with our good friend Jim Nix. And Jim, of course, will be on board for the remainder of the Everest Senior Curling Championship here in Digby. So it's great to have Jim's expertise on the mic. Brenda Gertzen started curling when she was 22 years old. Brings this one down, doubles out one of each. But again, situation here where I don't think Saskatchewan will mind spilling one of their own if it also means taking care of a PEI red. Because I think Sherry Anderson probably realizes that she's not going to be able to keep going along stealing points and stealing points and stealing points. I'm sure she figures at some point PEI with the hammer is going to get a break and make something happen. So, slight change of strategy here, as typically by this point in the last few ends, we've seen a lot more rocks in play, but it would appear that Anderson now may be changing her tactics a little bit and trying to keep it just a little bit cleaner. You got to wonder at some point if Anderson is going to say, okay, we've stolen 3 points in 3 consecutive ends, a single in each. We've been doing okay with that part of it, but let's see what will happen. Now, maybe we'll play it so that we force PEI to take a point and to give us the hammer and see what we can do with last rock. Because, you know, perhaps Andrew's just thinking, hey, if we can score a single point 3 ends in a row defending the hammer, maybe we can do more damage with. And I think I'm starting to think like a Skip. Some of the calling that you're hearing, not necessarily coming from our sheet. Lots of games going on. And right next door, game going on involving the ladies from British Columbia. They're taking on the Northwest Territories on sheet E, which is just to the, depending on which angle you're looking, the left or right of our current sheet. But from our broadcast position here, it would be to the left. And now you're hearing some calling coming from the Newfoundland and Manitoba game, as that one very tight in the 5th end. Susan McInnes, we're on our feature game here on sheet D. McInnes watching this one just sail down, not a brush put to it whatsoever. And we'll tap on that Saskatchewan yellow, drive it back. And now Anderson, I'm guessing we'll call for that red PEI rock to be taken out of play. Patty Hersicorn with her throw here. Coming down, looking to take out that PEI rock. Drives it right back through the house, and that's what Dolan asked for, and that's what Hersicorn delivers. So Dolan will look to just come down into the rings again, trying to initiate some kind of offense here, hoping for a miss from Saskatchewan and to open up the floodgates here in this 5th end. The 5th consecutive end that PEI has had last rock. Hasn't worked out so well for them this time. They're going to come down now and look to move some of those PEI rocks out of the way, and a good shot there by McInnes as her shooter kind of wiggles, waggles, woggles, and spins to a halt just above the tee line on the 12. So down to skip stones now once again. Sherry Anderson. Looks as if she'll come down that opposite side of the ice. Dolan and McInnes having a little giggle in behind. So Sherry Anderson picked up the game when she was 8 years old and still enjoying it every bit as much. Here she comes down that far side, going to be right on that PEI rock. Again, just clearing anything red out of the scoring rings, and then gets the nice roll to the inside, and she'll sit there halfway between the 8 and the 4, right on that tee line. Sherry Anderson, she has been on her game here this evening in this final draw of the day. And again, not to take anything away from Kim Dolan, but just the way this game has gone to this point, it feels like it's more than a 3-0 lead. It feels that way. So I guess the positive or silver lining for that, if you're Kim Dolan, is, you know what, the way this game has gone to this point, it's probably okay that we're only down by 3. Kind of like in a hockey game when you get outshot 50-10 through 2 periods, but you're only down by a goal. You know you've been outplayed, even though you're trying really hard, but you're still in it. Kim Dolan throwing the red rocks for this PEI team.
Either way,
Very stern look on the face of that PEI skip. Was wishing and hoping for some kind of a break here in this fifth end. Trying to bring that in. Anderson will try to brush it back, and you see there, just in the little picture-in-picture down in the corner for a moment, Kim Dolan just shaking her head. Again, it's not that she's playing horribly. It's just, just a little bit off of what she needs to do. And on the other side, Sherry Anderson has been on. Very few mistakes at this point have been made by the Saskatchewan rink, and that's pretty clear. When you look down a line score and you see what you see on that manual scoreboard and behind, you see that a team has not had the hammer yet, but they have scored 3 points and they lead. That'll tell you that a team is on their game. Anytime that you can steal consecutive points, whether it's one or more, but being able to steal back to back to back like that, that's a pretty good indicator that a team is on their game. And certainly that would be the case here with Sherry Anderson and her Saskatchewan rink. And they know what they need to do. They've got to keep pace in the women's pool. Because coming into this, she was bunched at the top at 6-1 with Newfoundland and Labrador as well as Alberta. So, she doesn't want to stumble and all of a sudden find herself in the 5th position looking up at the top 4. And when you've got several teams bunched at the top, 3 teams with 1 loss and 2 teams with 2 losses, 1 loss can do that. All of a sudden you're on the outside looking in. So, again, Sherry Anderson realizing that and has not lit up one little bit here. Anderson comes down, plays that to the top of the 12. So Saskatchewan sitting 1 right now, but a couple of other rocks in play. 1 rock in the back of the 8-foot belonging to Prince Edward Island. So a little sidebar now with Saskatchewan off to the side there. Again, we're down to skip stones in this 5th end. 5th end in a row that PEI has had last rock, but they are yet to see the fruits of that last rock labor.
still, he's had a good game.
Final rock of this 5th end, final rock for Kim Dolan and PEI. Can they break the ice here? Can they get on the board? Again, facing a Saskatchewan rock, sitting 1. Dolan watching, waiting, hoping. Could this be it? Can she get it deep enough? Well, she does not. And it's another steal of 1 for Saskatchewan. Make it 4 consecutive ends with a steal of 1. And make it now 6 consecutive ends that PEI will have the hammer. And it's got to be frustrating for Kim Dolan. We saw there moments ago when she threw her first rock, just kind of shaking her head. And again, it's not that they've played horribly, they haven't. It's just that Sherry Anderson has been on and has nary missed a shot. The entire team right down the line. Anita Silvernagle, the lead, Brenda Gertzen, the second, Patty Hersikorn, the vice, and Sherry Anderson, the skip. And again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would say the entire Saskatchewan team playing at a very high percentage. So into the 6th end we go. 6th end in a row that PEI has had the hammer. And again, trying to get something happening. But there you see Saskatchewan again. They just put a rock into the rings, and that means now that it's game on. Once the rock goes into the rings, that whole guard zone goes out the window, and it's a free and open house. Of course, PEI is going to want to play a little different game, try to get maybe a few guards up. See if they can work those guards, get something in behind, get something going here. You know, hey, they put a 2 or 3 on the board with the hammer. It's a brand new game. But you just get that feeling that Sherry Anderson, and this is a continuation of some of the events that have taken place here, as that doesn't even reach the hog line, as Julie Scales misreads that ice and has that shot go well short of the hog line. So that rock will be put to the back, and we move on to the second stone here for Anita Silvernagel. And sometimes when, despite your best efforts, things don't go your way, the negative thoughts and the doubts start to creep into your mind, and you start to pressure yourself a little more, and you start to doubt what you're doing, and you alter your shots, and you don't have the confidence in what you're doing when you come springing out of that hack. And I think that may have been the case there, as Julie Scales, very uncharacteristic for the lead for PEI to come up short of the hog line as she did with her first shot. This is her second one now. Looks like she has the weight. No problem with the hog line there. And it'll curl over and come to a stop. So there's the guard that PEI was looking for. Well, what do you think will happen here? Sherry Anderson call for the peel. That's a pretty safe bet. And still, troopers in behind. 2 of the 4 members of the British Columbia men's team rocking those BC flag 2-piece suits. Perhaps coming to an Amazon online order catalog near you soon. There's the peel of the guard. And Sherry Anderson will do that all day long if given the opportunity. Dolan just trying to get some glimmer of hope here. Just coming up to 9 o'clock, the top of the hour, here in Digby, Nova Scotia. 9 p.m. Atlantic time, of course. Wondering wherever you are, what time is it where you're watching? Send us out a tweet, let us know. We've had tweets quite literally from all over the world during this week of competition. Tweet us, use my Twitter name, Josco, Johsco. Use the hashtag Everest Furby. Use the hashtag TV1. And it's the number 1. Gertson, that big weight comes down, and there it is, PEI. They put up a guard, peel it out. They put a rock in the rings, Saskatchewan peels it out. Again, a high percentage here being curled by this Saskatchewan foursome. And when you see a curling foursome that are just in sync, have a rhythm going, it's quite something to watch. A team, when they get like that, they can just become a juggernaut, and no matter how good the opposition is, they can just kind of slice right through. Sandra Matheson. So again, a couple of Saskatchewan yellows in there. And the red PEI guard, just a little bit over the hog line. So Anderson moving away from the peel away the guard or peel away the stone strategy. Deciding to come down the other side of the ice now, ignoring that PEI guard. And this is not unlike what Anderson has done. She starts off with that peel game, and then all of a sudden she just flips the switch and decides to add a couple of more rocks into the rings.
Okay.
So Dolan asking now to come down on top of that Saskatchewan yellow. Update from our feature game over on sheet B. Looks like Manitoba has opened things up a little bit as they have taken a 5-1 lead over Newfoundland and Labrador. Looks like they put a 3 on the board in the 5th end. So play over there in end number 6. Newfoundland and Labrador with the hammer, but now trailing Manitoba by a score of 5-1. So a big 3-ender put up by the Manitoba men's team in the 5th. And certainly Kim Dolan and her PEI team could use a 3-ender here, as it has been all Saskatchewan on the scoreboard. Steals of 1 in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th ends. And looking for more here in end number 6. And this Saskatchewan team can switch gears in an instant. They went from the peel game, then they used a softer weight to draw down into the house, and then PEI places a stone in the rings, and then they switch gears again, and Hersikorn throws the takeout weight, peels off the PEI red, rolls the shooter out, and back to square one again for Dolan and PEI. Credit to them, no, PEI keep coming, they keep trying. Looking for that one little glimmer of hope. McInnes now looking to throw some heavy weight down into that grouping of yellow Saskatchewan rocks. Trying to drive them back and clear a couple out. One is gone, and the other rolls out to the very back of the 12-foot. So McInnes certainly does move those rocks around. Might have been happier if that other Saskatchewan yellow had spilled out of the back, but it does hang around. But again, opening it up just a little bit. And we'll see now what Sherry Anderson delivers here for Team Saskatchewan. The final draw here on this day 4. This is draw 16 of this event. And here comes Anderson. Throwing the big weight. This team adept at throwing the big weight, medium weight, quiet weight. And again, they just very methodically removing any PEI red rock that goes into play. Just to this point, a very complete performance by this Sherry Anderson rink. Update some other scores for you on this draw 16 on the women's side. Newfoundland and Labrador and Alberta deadlocked 5-5. A couple of big scoring ends there. Alberta with a couple of 2 ends. And then Newfoundland and Labrador with a 2 end in the 3rd and 3 in the 5th. So they're in the 6th end again. Tied 5-5. Alberta would have the hammer there. And over on sheet E, British Columbia leading by a score of 5-2 over the Northwest Territories. And again, that game in the 6th end as well. That's on the women's side of the ledger. And right here, our feature game on sheet D, Saskatchewan leading Prince Edward Island by a score of 4-0. We're here in the 6th end. And for the 6th consecutive end, PEI has the hammer, but they have yet to be able to take advantage of it, just based solely on the fact that Sherry Anderson's rink has been making the shots that they need to make, end in and end out. So, Sherry Anderson and her vice, Patty Hersicorn, talking things over here while we have a second. I want to remind you that you can visit www.bellalliant.ca for information about online programming as well as on-demand content. And you can also check out programming available exclusively to fiber op customers in Atlantic Canada, available on Channel 1 and 401. Bell Alliant, there's more to love with fiber op. And Bell Alliant certainly proud to be the official broadcaster of this 2016 Everest Canadian Seniors Curling Championship. And it's been a pleasure to be here. And of course, Bell Canada, one of the platinum sponsors of this event as well. So Sherry Anderson, I guess we could call her the Steel Queen here in this game to this point. Single point steals in 4 consecutive ends, accounting for all 4 Saskatchewan points. Here's Anderson with her delivery here. Again, PEI with the last rock in this end. Final stone for Anderson. She'll hit that red PEI rock, and it'll angle back out of play. So an opportunity now for Kim Dolan to score 2, and that will change things here in this game. A chance to cut the lead in half with a made shot. So we talked about Kim Dolan, not that they'd played terribly, it had just been that Sherry Anderson had really been on the game, and on her game through 5+ ends, but chance here for Dolan. PEI, if they can cut this lead in half, we got a new game. Here she comes. She's going to need to hit and stick around. And there it is, 2 points on the board for Kim Dolan and PEI. And don't look now, but it's a 4-2 game. So Saskatchewan, who have scored 4 points on 4 steals, now have an opportunity with the hammer in end number 7. So good for Kim Dolan and PEI. They have not let down. They have not given up. I'm sure there's been times where they've been very frustrated as how things have gone here through the first 6 ends. But this game of curling, it can giveth, it can taketh away, and sometimes it can surprise you. So to this point, what has been a fairly dominating performance by Saskatchewan, you got to give PEI credit. They've hung around, and now they trail by only 2. So let's see now, Sherry Anderson, see if she changes the strategy here with last rock, and if she tries to open it up. Anita Silvernagel will start things off for Saskatchewan. They probably had to get their bearings here. Not used to shooting second in this game so far. First time they've had the hammer, and we're in the 7th end. And maybe Silvernagel not used to going second and having to come up with a different shot. You see the look on her face. She's like, hey, what just happened? Well, what just happened is she just threw her rock through the house. And I know it's only early, just the first rock, but sometimes as goes the lead, so goes the end. So we'll see here. Julie Scales. Matheson and McInnes working it, trying to pull it over just a tiny bit. So this guard put in line with the one that's just above it, but obviously, as you see, just a little bit deeper. So a couple of PEI guards now sitting on that center line. Another quick update on our feature game on Sheet B. Jim Nix bringing the action over there. Men's championship pool action. Newfoundland and Labrador gets a single point. So in the 7th end, in that one, Manitoba leading Newfoundland and Labrador 5-2. Manitoba with the hammer in 7. You hear Silvernagel saying, "Go hard, girls, go hard." And they brush that one back into the 4-foot. Here's Sandra Matheson now. The second for Prince Edward Island. So PEI, with that score of 2, has to be thinking steal here now. They don't want to give up any more points to Saskatchewan and go to that 8th end with the hammer, but trailing by any more than 2. Matheson comes down and freezes up against that Saskatchewan yellow. So we're seeing one of those ends that could shape up to be a multi-rock coming down to the last throw type of end. Brenda Gertzen, the second, with her throw. It's going to be right on that. Trying to double it off, and a nice job there by Gertzen as she gets the double take out of those 2 PEI guards. Good shot making here by Saskatchewan in this draw. Matheson with the throw here, her second. Matheson following this one all the way down. She gets the little tap on the Saskatchewan yellow, pushes it back into the button, but 2 PEI rocks sitting right in front of it. So we'll see now if Anderson is keen on removing one or both of those. And keep in mind here, so many ends in a row with PEI having last rock. Sometimes Anderson may have to remind herself that she's got the hammer here in the 7th end. First time Saskatchewan's had the hammer in this game. Gertzen with the throw, coming in, looking to get that double. And that is a well-placed shot, splitting off those 2 PEI red rocks, shooting them off either side of the sheet. And you're left with nothing but yellow. The yellow guard on that center line, and 2 Saskatchewan yellows sitting in the house. One almost dead center on that button. PEI looking to come down now and bring this one into the house, and it'll sit right there on that center line. About 3 feet of separation between that rock and the yellow stone in behind it. So, a meeting of the minds here. I think perhaps Saskatchewan may have called timeout. So, that's a nice look. Almost like they're lined up for a team photo here. Smile, ladies. I'm taking your picture as we speak. I'm not even kidding. Tweet that out later. So, Silvernagel, Gertson, Hersekorn, and Anderson, the Saskatchewan foursome, talking things over, and there you have a look at the ladies from Prince Edward Island doing the same thing. And, well, how can you not see the theme of this draw to a certain extent? The British Columbia flag suits. So Sherry Anderson, who to this point, or at least up until the sixth end, had pretty much had things kind of go her way and Saskatchewan's way, realizing now that it's game on here as their timeout coming to a conclusion. And they'll have to get ready to throw here. So Anderson likes that placement in there, nestled in between those two yellows, giving Hersekorn lots of ice. You see Anderson reaching for the stopwatch. It's nice to see the guys from BC having some Gatorade to re-energize themselves. You know, you got to rehydrate. Hersekorn. After that timeout from Saskatchewan, the four team members got together, talked over a couple of different scenarios, and the one they chose is the one you see here. Looking to bring it down and have it, I don't know if it's going to bend over enough. Well, it does come over. It looked for a minute like that might straighten out more than they wanted, but it comes over, it taps back, and causes that little log jam. Maybe a little more separation between those yellow rocks than they'd like, but still not a bad situation for Saskatchewan to be in here. Again, keeping in mind Saskatchewan with the hammer. So there you see Dolan discussing whether they can angle that yellow rock there to the right over into the other one to maybe spill them out. So I'm not sure if Dolan asking advice or basically saying, this is what I want to do. Are you with me? Although typically we find that, you know, skips usually pretty open to the advice not only of the team but certainly of their vice. And that's why the skips have the vices that they do on these teams, or the mates, depending on what you want to call them. Some even just say, oh, it's just the third. A couple of different ways to refer to them, but they use vice in the profile information here, so I'll do the same. But typically the vice, the right hand of the skip will lean on the vice for input, advice, changing of the mind if need be, but it's typically a collaborative affair for the most part, although at the end of the day the skip does have final say on what is going to be thrown. So the decision has been made here, and it looks like they're going to come down and try and move those yellow rocks with this throw from McInnes. Not a lot of ice taken on this shot, so it'll run fairly straight and true. Well, they sure don't want to wreck on that guard, and I think that's what might happen here. And they do, so they tick on that guard, and after all that discussion and back and forth about what they wanted to do. Sherry McInnes sees her shot, hit that guard, and maybe a case there where maybe not enough ice taken for that, as it just really seemed to move quite a bit at the end, tick off the guard, so it opens up that center line. And now you see Anderson looking a little distressed as she wants to figure out what they do. You just heard her say a freeze tap. In other words, taking that red rock and freezing it, tapping it back and freezing it onto the yellow with another Saskatchewan yellow in front of it. So Hersicorn still from one end of the ice to the other, talking things over with Anderson. Looks like they're ready. This end, the seventh end, turning out to be a very strategic one for both teams. So here we go. Hersicorn coming right into the heart of it here. Looking to tap and maybe get a little roll over. Well, no roll. It's a pretty much a nose hit, pushing the other yellow Saskatchewan stone further back. So it appears here the last couple of rocks for both teams having a little bit of problem reading that ice. Now we come down to skip stones here in the seventh end against Saskatchewan with the 4-2 lead. They have shot rock here in this seventh end.
It's just not worth it. So the general miss there would be to be a little high, a little heavy, maybe a little wide, one or the other, and probably not make that roll that you needed to get shot rock.
So Anderson and Hersicorn in the background. I'm sure talking about what Anderson wants to do with her next shot. Meanwhile, Sherry McInnes, or excuse me, Susan McInnes has the brush placement, and Dolan now will go down here and play this in, turn a rotation on that rock out of her hand. Scales and Matheson haven't touched it yet. Easily through that opening. Dolan really watching this, trying to raise that back, and she pushes her own rock well to the back, and now things setting up well here for Saskatchewan. Again, remember, Saskatchewan with last rock here. A couple of options here for Sherry Anderson. And when you do have last rock, sometimes you can think a couple of shots ahead. So we'll see. They may want to come down and hit on that red rock at the back and maybe try to get a roll over to the side, creating like a little protection at the back for those Saskatchewan stones that are sitting at the button and the forefoot. Anderson has done a pretty good job of calling things so far. She's asking for a little more ice, I believe, from Hersicorn. Anderson with her first of two here in this seventh end. Well, not quite yet. Need to adjust that brush just a little. Well, they gave her lots of ice. I was wondering why she would want to come down to the back, but she's gonna come into the middle and perhaps put a little protection in front, try to clog up that center section and make it hard for Dolan to come into those rolls in the middle. So there you see, certainly that one Saskatchewan stone sitting shot rock right in the middle of the button. That there is no doubt of. And then from that angle, certainly Saskatchewan sitting shot rock plus second and third shot. So lots of options for Anderson with her last. But first things first, Dolan will look to come in and maybe freeze onto that yellow stone. We'll see. Dolan made a nice shot to score the 2 in 6. And looking here to turn the tables on Sherry Anderson, at least from a steal perspective. Well, last rock here for Dolan. One more to come after this as Saskatchewan with the hammer. Waiting for it to curl. Really trying to direct it over, and it taps on the guard, and she just couldn't get it through that opening. So looks like an open opportunity here for a big for Saskatchewan. So it would certainly appear that 3 is in the making. And just tough one there for Dolan as she couldn't get it by. She was looking to freeze into that pile and force Anderson to make a shot that could have ended up with a steal. But Anderson now has the table set for a nice looking end here in a pretty substantial lead going into the 8th end. Well, there it is out of the hand of Anderson. Last rock here in the 7th end. First time Saskatchewan has had the hammer. Let's see what kind of payoff it's going to have for the ladies in green. No problems at all. Curling over. Through. Coming over, looking to tap. Maybe just a little deep. So certainly, let's see. 1, 2, 3. The other 2 on that side, not sure. Again, so we're going to wait. Now it's not going to matter. It's handshakes. At least 3. We'll wait and see what the final score put up on the board is. There's the scorekeeper. He's coming over to get confirmation. So a great effort from Kim Dolan and her PEI team. They were up against it as Sherry Anderson was really firing on all cylinders. I mean, she really was. Just a masterful curling effort through the first 6 ends. Stealing points in 2, 3, 4, and 5 to take a 4-0 lead. Dolan stuck with it, bounced back with the 2 of her own in 6, but there in 7, just a little too much Saskatchewan for PEI to handle. So again, we'll just wait to see what they put the final number up so that we can get the score correct for you. But what we can tell you, and just give me a moment here, I'll bring up the standings. And what we do know, I'll just bring the standings up for just a second on the curling.ca website. So let's see what number our good friend, the scorekeeper, puts up. So it was indeed a steal of 3, so you can make that final 7-2. And from a standing standpoint now, that will move Saskatchewan to 7-1, keeping pace with Alberta. They also, Alberta and Saskatchewan currently leading the top of the championship pool standings for the women at records of 7-1. Well, that does it here on Sheet B today. Quick update over on Sheet B. Our other feature games still going on in the 8th end. Manitoba leading Newfoundland and Labrador by a score of 5-3. And they do have the hammer in number 8. So you can join Jim Nix for the final few stones over on Sheet B. But here on Sheet D, things are done. So on behalf of 45 North, Chuck Calder, Scott McRae and their crew, as well as Bell Alliant TV1, I'm Scott Squires saying thank you for watching. Good night from Digby. Once again, make your final Saskatchewan with over PEI by a score of 7-2. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Atlantic Until then, enjoy your evening and good night from Digby.